How are you? Hi guys, and welcome back to my YouTube channel. I hope you've been well. My name is Agnes Betty Mtusa and my channel is Binti Afya Kenya. So all we talk about is women's health in Kenya. And today's video is gonna be a bit special because I'm going to be having a very special guest for you guys. So stay tuned, comment, subscribe and watch, and also make sure that you share with your friends so that everyone gets the information. Thank you so much and stay tuned to get to know more about this special video. Mwah! So the special guest, you can already see her. She's already here. Thank you so much. So you can introduce yourself so that people know who you are.
Hi guys, my name is Faith. I am, of course, a sister to the beautiful content creator about health. I am an advocate and I am so excited. So if you have not subscribed, please support us. Support my sister. Just click on the subscribe button. I'm sure you won't regret. So karibu sana and thank you for having me.
Thank you so much. I'm really happy that you got to join us today.
Yeah.
So as she mentioned, she's an advocate and I'm the public health officer. So this is a good team. I'm happy to be, doing this episode of domestic violence. So today you're going to be talking about sexual abuse and stay tuned to know more about it. So I'm sure you're eager to learn more about, sexual abuse or sexual violence or an assault.
Yes.
So before we even talk about sexual violence or sexual assault, I think it's good to highlight why is it important we are talking about these things.
Yeah.
And I'm sure you've been watching the news, you've been, seeing these things on Facebook or Twitter.
Yeah.
There's a lot that is going on in terms of sexual abuse and even violence against women. So that's why we thought about it, and we thought about it as a very important and very key issue that needs to be addressed. And even offer some help within our own ability. How can you help someone who is going through such a violence or a form of gender-based violence?
Yeah.
So my sister is going to talk about the definition since she's an advocate. I'm sure she's well equipped to talk about that.
Yeah.
So she's going to define to you what is sexual abuse, and then I like the various forms of sexual abuse. So karibu.
Great. Thanks. So I thought of let's just begin of trying to differentiate what is an assault and what is violence. Why we have to differentiate both, because there is assault and there is violence. Violence is an aggravated form of assault. Assault, someone may just touch you, just not as using a lot of force as we would define it as violence. So with that in mind, what I'll say sexual violence or assault would be is any sexual behavior towards a woman or a man that is unwelcomed without their consent, then that will be sexual violence or assault. So any behavior, be it, touch, advances, and then of course now violence, and someone has raped you or all that, that will be sexual violence, So it's good to differentiate. It can happen both men and women. There's no differentiation. You can't say because it was a man then he was not assaulted or there was no sexual violence. So it's good to have that in mind.
Yeah, and before we even continue, I think it's good that you have actually highlighted that my channel is about women's health, but that's not to mean that these things don't happen to men as well.
Yeah.
So sexual violence or assault can also happen to both women and men.
Both women and men.
Okay.
Yeah. So I can talk about different forms. We will not highlight all of them, but we can talk about different forms of sexual abuse or sexual violence or assault. And why we will just highlight, there are like over 30 forms of sexual violence or assault. So we've just chosen to maybe pick the first 10. The rest, you can search them on internet and want to learn more about it. Legally here in Kenya, we have laws that govern this. We have the Sexual Offences Act that will highlight for you the types of sexual offences you have under the law, and you have the Criminal Procedure Code or the Criminal Procedure Act that can even highlight for you what are some of the sexual violence that in Kenya that are recognized under the law. And of course, you have our ultimate constitution, that talks about, acts that are, against humanity, against humans. So you're against human rights. So with that basis in mind, I'll talk about defilement. And why we started with this, with COVID, we have had, children were back home. So you find that if a sort of sexual violence was continuing, they don't have anywhere to go, and they're just trapped with their perpetrators. So you'll find that so many cases that children are coming out and they've been sexually assaulted, or there's been any violence. So it's good to highlight this. So we have defilement, and under the law, how we define defilement is any sexual act that is done to a child, either a boy or a girl. It's good to highlight both, either a boy or a girl under 11 years old. So
11 years old.
Under 11 years old. So that will be defined as defilement. Yes, to be and actually it's punishable you can be jailed for life for that offense. And then of course we have rape. Everyone knows rape. But rape is any forceful. There is some sort of force that is used by the perpetrators or the attackers when doing this. And then we have gang rape. Gang rape is when this act is done by more than one person. So the act is done by person number 1, person number 2. Then it will not be rape; it will be gang rape. It will be classified as gang rape. And we have FGM. I don't know. Many people don't classify this as a form of sexual violence, but actually it's a form of sexual violence. And I'm very happy that most even of our influencers have taken this. Kina Janet Bugwa.
Yeah, Janet Bugwa actually is doing a very good job.
Yes, just promoting and people who are in that cause and just making sure that our young girls are not being sexually abused in the name of culture, in the name of FGM. And then of course we have what else?
There's incest.
Yeah, of course there's incest when this is done. Thank you, Sister Nona. You're learning law. There is incest.
Staying with you, I love to learn.
Definitely. Yes. There is incest. This is when this act is done by a family member. Someone you actually know. And statistics show that most of child abuse or rape is done by someone so close to them. It's done by someone so close to them.
And it's because maybe this person is someone you build trust with.
Yes.
So you do never think about them doing such a thing to you.
Exactly.
Yeah. So
I think there are so many. So I don't want to bore you with all the legalese, but I felt it's good that we just highlight that so that you understand what are some of the forms. And even let me just highlight the last one, even like sexual abuse or harassment at work. Advances. And actually this is exerted by someone who is of exact sort of power. And feel like they have like power over you.
It's like they want to control you.
Exactly. So those are some of the. I'm not going into details because I don't want to give you
a lot of information.
I don't want to give you a low class.
Yeah.
So we thought let's just highlight this, and we can even provide in the description box just more websites or sites you can visit to learn more about this.
Okay, that was really good. Thank you so much. I've actually learned a lot from this, and also you've learned much.
Yes.
So if you have any questions, if you have any comments, make sure that you put them on the description box so that you can handle them. Now that we know about what is the definition of sexual violence or assault and the difference between the two, and also the various forms of sexual abuse, I think it's good that we highlight the statistic in Kenya and how how are we handling these issues and why is it so rampant in Kenya. So just to highlight this about the statistics of sexual violence in Kenya, it's estimated that 14% of Kenyan women and 6% of men aged between 15 and 49 have experienced sexual violence at a point in their lives. So that's quite a high number, thinking about it. And most of the people actually, that age group is 15 to 49 years. We call it the women of reproductive age.
Yeah.
And some of the things that you may resort to this sexual violence are even teenage pregnancies that we are actually quite, dealing with, and a lot of organizations are dealing with.
Yeah.
So those are some of the, basically just a statistic of what's happening in Kenya. And there's more to it. I think I highlighted it on my previous videos when I was doing physical abuse and even emotional abuse. So there's a lot really you can talk about, and it's clear that it's happening in the world. As much as people are not talking about it, it's really happening.
Yeah.
So maybe what we can highlight is, why has it been so rampant, and what are some of the misconceptions of myths that we need to really demystify about this issue of sexual violence.
Yeah.
So maybe you can start with that. Why is it rampant?
Yeah, and I'll say why. If you can comment in the comments below, if you have a neighbor, a friend, like people so close to you that have experienced this. We all know you have someone in your family, your close circle, that have experienced it. But you know what? As Kenyans, or even worldwide, we kind of normalize this. So I'll say number one, why it's been so rampant, it's because we normalize violence. As long as it's not come out, or I can cover it with foundation. We normalize violence. We say, as long as she has not talked about it, let's not, let's just be secret. And someone is suffering, and and maybe, I don't know, there's shame that is attached to this. But I would say, let's be in a space that you don't feel ashamed if you have been sexually assaulted, or there's some violence, or you're in an abusive relationship. Come out and seek help, because we are not in the medieval times. There are so many places that you can still seek help. And yes, I would say for me that's number one. What's something else you think about?
I think for me, something else that we really need to demystify is that these issues actually happen in sort of like a marriage setup sometimes. Most of the time it's a partner, or even a relationship. Yes. Yeah. And the reason why people might keep quiet is because of also family members. Sometimes you may find that it's like, as a woman, there are things that it's like when you're married kabisa, you can't go back.
Yes.
Or if there's anything that is happening to you have to deal it with yourself, or rather alone. You can't talk to someone else about it. Yeah. So I think even as close family members, we need to create safe spaces for us to be able to open up about these issues. Yeah. Because these things are happening to people at our closed doors, like someone who know very, very, very well. So for them to be able to open up about these issues, we need to create safe spaces for these people to talk about these issues and assure them there is something that can be done about it, because for sure there's something that can be done about it. And
I'll talk about even the internet and the many incidences, even zile za juzi, we have had girls or women being assaulted in public spaces, and you know what, the internet will only highlight or talk about the perpetrators. No one speaks about the victims. Because maybe the person who has done the act is famous and we are chasing clouds as internet. So even as influencers, people in these platforms try and highlight, talk about what happened to those two girls. We give so much power to the perpetrators. Hey, this and these people, you mean, and we know them, they are famous. But that's not it. What are you doing about the victim? Someone, have they called them? Have you advised them? Even in my position as an advocate, have I tried to reach out and told them, you can report this to police. You can take legal actions. You can seek help here and there. So we are not highlighting that. We are giving too much power to the perpetrators.
Sure. And I think maybe even the reason why some people even don't report, or maybe nothing is done about it, is because we are focused on the perpetrator, and then we fail to, to understand even the trauma that these people go through.
Yes.
And I think that's something maybe we need to highlight about even the trauma that someone goes through after sexual or other sexual assault or violence has happened to them. We're going to talk about the trauma that someone goes through after they have gone through sexual abuse or sexual assault. And to be sincere, there's a lot that goes on. It goes beyond even the physical act. There's the emotional trauma that goes on. And one of the emotional or rather traumas that someone goes through is depression. You can feel very hopeless. And because you feel like there's nothing that can be done about it, but for sure there's something that can be done.
Especially when the person who is, doing the acts are like the breadwinners. Like you feel like you have no options or you have no way out. You're trapped.
And you want to protect them. Maybe if they are your family member. Yes. There's also feelings of anxiety, like you fear this might happen to you again. And anxiety also sometimes can come with panic attacks, whereby you feel like, you know what, I don't know whether I'm safe. You never know whether this might happen again. And something else is also post-traumatic stress. And this happens, sometimes even changes your personality. It's like, sometimes you're okay, you're moving on with your life, but then afterwards, something happens to you, and the memory replays again of what happened to you. So maybe you can highlight the story you're talking to me about.
And I was actually sharing with my sister the other day about whether it was a preaching or just a YouTube video I was watching, and this lady was just highlighting that her trauma, like when she was young, they would be beaten, like the violence was coming from the dad, and they used to be beaten with a belt. So years on end, she got married. And immediately, they got married. Just the husband came home and he was just removing his belt. And the lady cringed. Like, that memory came back so fresh of how they used to be beaten. So I can say that can be part of PTSD, where you're taken back to that specific moment. And it's not like you anticipated it. It happens. That's how you know I am experiencing PTSD as a result of a post-traumatic event that happened when I was little, or it's just so fresh in your brain, and it just requires like a trigger.
Yes. So something else you also need to highlight is attachment issues. And in long term, this is a long term effect. You find that these people actually are very they find it hard to have healthy attachments with people, and it's in terms of relationships. And you may find that actually the next thing is addiction. You may find that these people most likely they end up addicted to drugs because they're finding something. They're trying to find something to get away that memory or move away with that memory. And not to think about it anymore. So I think now that connects to how can you help these people? And I think my sister can start with one of the organizations that actually deals with these things.
My very good friend worked for COVAO, and that's how I came to know about Coalition of Violence Against Women. And what COVAO does, they even have a hotline, a helpline that you can call.
We are going to insert it in the description box.
Yes, that you can call. And especially during the last year when COVID-19 had hit, skyrocketed, they really helped a lot of people. And they have a simplified handbook for sexual offenses. Actually, it's a simplified version of Sexual Offences Act. So what it does, they have simplified it for a common mwananchi, or someone in the village would want to know what does the law do for me. So if you go and my sister will provide a link at the description box, you will know that they have tried to explain it very well, simplified, even with diagrams. This is what you need to do. These are the steps. So I would encourage you to just have a look, know what the law says about this.
Also, another organization you know very well, I think I met them on Facebook the first time. They are called Usikimye. So it's like an NGO organization that mostly talks about gender violence in Kenya and among women. So that's one of, and actually I think they have an helpline. So I'll also link them. Of course, this video is not sponsored by any of the organization you're mentioning. That's a disclaimer. We just think it's good that we mention the organizations that you can go and seek help from there. Also, we have therapy. I'm sure there's this Childline free that I saw one of our influencers, Terence Creative, advertising about it.
Yes,
so maybe you can also link their description box, or rather their number, whereby you can call them, you can talk to someone who can actually help you. Yes. So wrap it up, I'm sure this has struck so many discussions, and I feel like there might be a part 2. I don't know, but thank you so much for watching our channel. And if you have any questions, just click them on the on the description box. So maybe you want to say something before we
One thing I would encourage your audience and other people listening to us. I know the amount of research that this sister of mine puts into just making sure she's giving you well-researched material. So I'm just hoping that you will reward her by just subscribing to the channel so that she feels encouraged. Yes. And she said if you need any more explanation, I'm here to offer a part 2 where I'll just delve deep into the forms and how you can use the law as a tool to help someone.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
I'm so happy for having you. Thank you for coming.
Hi, I'm delighted.
Okay, we're being mushy. Anyway, thank you so much, guys, for watching. Make sure you subscribe, like, comment, and share with your friends.
Mwah.